Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
The Rock Review is honored to have on an incredible musician, blogger, author, actor, and he's an advocate. It is Ari Herstand. And Ari, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Eric.
I wanted to open this up with, what grabbed me was you've got a brand new album out, Like Home. And we were talking before we started the interview. This is an amazing and very honest album. And I know that you did this during the pandemic, and it was not how you usually do it with your full band, Ari.
Absolutely. I mean, I spent, about a year and a half writing all of these songs. And right when we were about to record the record, the whole world shut down. And my producer and I were like, well, how are we going to make this now? Because I'm used to making records where the whole band is in studio together and we're making it together. But, we recorded this over Zoom, and with the wonders of modern technology. My producer lives 15 minutes down the road, but we didn't really ever see each other. Actually used a bassist from Nashville. And so we kind of zoomed in with him, and he was recording his bass from his home studio, and we were listening from here. And we made this record a very different way, but I'm really proud of it.
I really like this stripped down method that you did with this, because the lyrics are so powerful and the imagery that you're creating and vocals are so good, to where I think it works better with this kind of stripped down version.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And it's something, these songs are so personal to me, and this subject matter came out of a place where I had kind of, it was a very introspective place. And I think there's, the whole record, I'm exploring the concept of home. And in this year where all of us were kind of figuring out what home means to us, when kind of our concept has been shifted and shattered so much. I think these songs at the core, I wrote them just kind of by myself with an acoustic guitar or on the keys. And so we wanted to maintain that intimacy with the record.
Well, and I think you achieved it. I mean, particularly the title track, I just love the acoustic guitar. And then also on Halfway, you brought in a featured guest on that. And that one that song builds up into a crescendo, really, as you're traveling through it.
So there is a hopeful ending to this record. This record came out of a breakup. However, and so most of the songs are kind of about my process of going through it. However, the last song that I wrote for this record is Halfway. It's the last one on the album. And this song is about debating if I should make a move on my best friend, who I was starting to have feelings for at the time. And I didn't want to ruin our friendship, but I wrote this song a week before I made the move. We had our first kiss, and then quarantine happened. And so we were already great friends. She moved in. 9 months later, we were engaged, and this is the artist Annabelle Lee, and she guests on the song that she inspired.
How incredible is that? Well, I told you too before we started the interview, Ari, where it's like, after I listened to the album, it's like I felt like I needed a hug. And I was at my home alone, so obviously there was no hug. But I want to bring this up to you. I got to brag on you some. Obviously, seeing you at a number of the NAMM shows over the years, you're always on a panel. You are a best-selling author, and your book is in a second printing, even probably soon to be in your third printing, and it's used in 300 universities talking about the music business. And Forbes magazine calls you're the do-it-yourself musician, of like the world.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you end up writing this book? And I know it's been helpful to so many artists. I've got a copy here.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. It kind of came out of a necessity. I realized while I was managing my own music career independently, I didn't have a manager or a booking agent. I was booking tours all over the country by myself, selling out shows without a promoter, without a booking agent, without a record label, and I was kind of figuring everything out the hard way. I was getting a lot of questions on how I was doing it all. So I was trying to get back to everybody. I only have so many hours in the day. So I started a blog, and everything I learned, I put on the blog. And then I started interviewing people because I wanted to learn more. I'm a student. I'm a lifelong student at heart. I wanted all the information. So I just started interviewing people all over the industry, from all walks of life in the industry. And then I took all of that knowledge, put it into the book, primarily because there really wasn't a book out there that was talking about the new music business, what was happening right now, how musicians were succeeding in this day and age, written by a working musician. That's, I think, the biggest difference is a lot of these music business books out there are written by lawyers, and they're kind of talking about contract negotiation, which can be important, but like I was running my whole career without a contract issued from anyone. So I'm like, I know how to negotiate this contract, but the contract's not in my lap right now. So I have to make a career happen somehow. And I think a lot of musicians are in that position. We're like, okay, we've read all the lawyerly books of like how to negotiate the contracts. But at this point, we just need to know how to make a career happen and make a living with our music. And so I wanted to share those stories of what I was learning from my own career, but primarily from all the stories I was hearing about when I was interviewing these people. And I'm so happy that people have resonated and responded to the book so well.
Well, I got to bring this up too, Ari. I think what's so impressive to me is that you live what you write. You know what I mean? You're living it. It's not just like you said. It's not a lawyer. It's not hypothetical. It's not a professor going, well, here's how the music world works. It's like, well, okay, right. Yes, in 1984, and we're in 2021. But I think what a nice transition too is talking about with your Ari's Take University, your academy that you're essentially doing online as well. And you've got so many things going. I mean, you've got that. You've got your new podcast, the new music business podcast going too.
Well, that's the thing. So I was conducting all of these interviews privately with my, recording on my iPhone with the voice memos and then writing about what I was learning. And it was such valuable information. And these conversations I was having were so illuminating. I decided, you know what, why don't I just turn on the mic, hit record, and share the interviews that I'm having. So that's what the podcast is, I interview people from all walks of life, artist managers, artists, music supervisors, publishers, label execs. I mean, you name it. If they're in the industry and they're doing something innovative, I like to sit down with them and then share the interview. So the New Music Business podcast is all about those conversations. And then, yes, the Academy, which you mentioned, Ari's Take Academy, this is something where we engage working professionals. So like you mentioned, these aren't professors or teachers that were kind of relevant or in the industry 30 years ago. These are people who are experts in the field right now, and they are the ones that we bring them in because they know what they're doing, because they're in it right now in this moment. So they're teaching the course based on what they're working on. And so I think that sets us apart from most of the other institutions out there, is that our instructors are actually working on this in this moment right now. And so they can help our students, and it's all online. So we have students from all over the world. I mean, right now we have about 3,000 students from all over the world that are kind of, engaging with our instructors and the community. It's a very community focused academy as well.
Well, and as a singer, songwriter, entertainer also, Ari, to where, so many artists are just trying to learn. They're hungry to learn, to be better. They may have talent and skills, but as you and I both know, particularly in the music business, that may not be enough, and just like you've done with your career from back in the day in Minneapolis and obviously in LA now, to where, you've got to have all these skill sets and be able to promote yourself and use social media. Having a great voice or a great song or a great, EP is not enough, as we both know.
I wish it was enough. I wish it was all about the music and the talent. And that's honestly one of the reasons why I started Ari's Take, the blog, why I wrote the book, why I have the academy, what the podcast is, because I don't want to see talented, hardworking, passionate, dedicated musicians not be able to make it work because they don't have the know-how, they don't have the knowledge. And that's what I did see in Minneapolis when I was an artist there in that scene, is these artists who were some of my favorite musicians of all time. They were making these records that to this day are still my favorite records. And they ended up breaking up or quitting music because they couldn't figure out how to make it work, or they were getting taken advantage of by people in the industry. And I didn't want to see that happen again. So that's the driving force behind everything that I do.
You have fan bases in multiple areas, from your music, for your book, for your academy. You've got fans in all these different areas.
Totally. And I'm experimenting with all the new strategies and tactics in real time. So, if somebody mentions this service over here, I'll go sign up and try it out and then share my findings, and whether it's with TikTok or whether it's with Twitch or whether it's, streaming and Spotify or whatever it is, I try everything out. Or I'll enlist people and then I'll share everything, all the findings. So we just kind of share the knowledge, because I don't believe in competition in the music industry. I believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that we, as a community, as a collective community, are stronger when we're working together and when we're sharing the information. And so it's a very different industry now than it was 20 years ago, where I felt it was a lot more cutthroat, where there was only a few spots that the labels could sign each year. And if they signed you, they weren't going to sign me, and that kind of a thing. It's not really like that anymore, because we have the internet, because your fans can exist all over the world. You can find your audience, and there's enough fans and money to go around for all of us. So I like to show all the ways that people are carving out their careers for themselves, all the ways that musicians are finding success and how they're doing it specifically. And then each musician can decide which pathway resonates for them and which makes the most sense for them based on their strengths, based on their desires, their interests, what kind of life and future they want to have, because there's no one definition of success. Success is extremely personal. I like to say, don't allow anyone to define success for you. Don't allow them to throw their vanity metrics or their numbers and say, oh, you got to do this and you're not successful. None of that really matters. It depends on what kind of career do you want to have. And then once you figure that out, what kind of career you want to have, then you can figure out the pathway forward that's the best for you.
I think that's so well put too, Ari, to where, there are different levels of success. And what is your goal? What are you looking to achieve? And I also want to congratulate you on, speaking of achievements, with your work last year in California on the legislation that you helped bring for musicians and everything. And just what a great thing you did with that legislation.
Thank you. That was my first foray into politics. I don't think I'm going to return. It was a very interesting and challenging thing. I found myself again at this intersection where I learned about this law that had just been passed. It was already signed. It was about to go into effect, and how it was going to dramatically affect the music industry. I mean, I wrote this article that the California music economy was about to crash because of this. And legitimately, it would have, and it was starting to, because it went into effect. And I kind of gathered up some musicians. We had this scrappy group together where we were visiting legislators all over the state. We were writing letters. We got a petition signed with 185,000 musicians of California. I mean, I was going on news programs, and we were putting pressure on the legislators to change the law. And in the end, fortunately, I had a hand in writing the words that went into this law. I was literally sitting down with them saying, well, we should change this sentence and change this word over here, this word. And I'm just I can't believe that this is where I'm at right now. I'm literally on the phone negotiating the language that eventually did become the law. And we got this thing passed and the governor signed it. And, they realized that this, the law that they had initially passed, that the music industry kind of got caught up in, we were the unintended consequences. They didn't realize that the music industry would be so negatively affected by this. So in the end, we were able to work that out. But it was a challenge and a process, and definitely a learning situation for me.
I want to make sure for our viewers, Ari, they know where to go for your music, for your podcast, for your academy, all the amazing things you're doing. Where should they go?
You can go to ariherstand.com, which is my website. aristake.com, that's the music business educational hub. So if you're an artist or you're in the industry and you want to learn more about the new music business, aristake.com is the best place you can go and find that. Of course, the New Music Business Podcast, however you listen to podcasts, you can find that. And then my new album, which you're so generously and graciously plugging so much. I so appreciate that. You can just search my name, Ari Herstand, like home, however you find music, and you'll find it there.
And I got to tell you, I know so many of us are looking for new music. And if you're looking to add some incredible new songs, and I suggest the whole album to your playlist, do it with Like Home. You're going to love it as much as I do. Ari, thank you so much for coming on the Rock Review today.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.